A fragile and deeply uncertain calm has settled over the dispute. Jungle-shrouded border separating the Kingdom of Thailand and the Kingdom of Cambodia. This tentative peace arrives as both nations formally consented to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, bringing a sudden halt to 5 days of ferocious and unrelenting combat. The recent fighting was the most intense and deadly escalation of their long simmering conflict in more than a decade, a flare-up that has inflicted a tragic loss of life and precipitated a massive humanitarian crisis, compelling hundreds of thousands of terrified civilians to flee their homes on both sides of the heavily militarized frontier. The breakthrough agreement, which many seasoned international observers had considered highly improbable only a few days prior, was painstakingly forged through the assertive and dedicated diplomatic intervention of Malaysia, which currently holds the rotating chairmanship of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. The pivotal accord was solidified in the meticulously planned administrative capital of Putrajaya, Malaysia, a city purpose-built to host exactly these kinds of high-stake diplomatic encounters. It was within this neutral and modern setting that acting Thai Prime Minister Thongtham Vichaya and Cambodia Prime Minister Hun Manet engaged in several hours of critical face-to-face negotiation. These vital talks were personally chaired and skillfully facilitated by Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who effectively leveraged his influential position as the head of the powerful regional bloc to guide both warring parties toward a peaceful negotiated resolution. The ceasefire officially commenced at the precise stroke of midnight, casting a blanket of profound and tense silence over the unbattled border regions. These areas had, for nearly a full week, been relentlessly shattered by the deafening and terrifying sounds of continuous artillery duels, the percussive thud of mortar fire, and the constant crackle of automatic weapons. This hard-won agreement is being held across the globe as an absolutely crucial and indispensable first step toward the genuine de-escalation of a conflict that had appeared to be on the very brink of spiraling into a full-scale, protracted and devastating war between the two neighboring Southeast Asian countries. In their separate public statements issued shortly after the conclusion of the talks, both the Thai and Cambodian leaders formally affirmed their steadfast and unwavering commitment to upholding all the terms of the ceasefire. They also expressed a shared and publicly articulated desire to pursue a consistent path of peaceful diplomatic resolution for all outstanding issues. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim of Malaysia, in his official and widely televised announcement of the diplomatic accord, declared that both parties had demonstrated remarkable statesmanship and political courage. He stated they had successfully achieved a common understanding and had agreed to undertake immediate and verifiable measures designed to restore a state of normalcy to the deeply unsettled border region. He further emphasized Malaysia's full preparedness to promptly assemble and coordinate a multinational monitoring team. This team, he explained, would be composed of military and civilian personnel drawn from neutral Asian member states, and it would be deployed to the sensitive areas to ensure the strict and impartial observance of the ceasefire by the military force of both Thailand and Cambodia. The international community, which had been watching the rapid escalation of violence with a growing sense of alarm and dread, responded to the news with a collective and palpable sigh of relief, offering widespread and effusive praise for the significant diplomatic achievement. The most recent outbreak of open hostilities, which undoubtedly represents the most violent and dangerous flare-up since the extended border crisis of the late 2000s, was reportedly triggered by a singular yet highly consequential event. A powerful landmine explosion occurred in a contested and poorly demarcated area of the border, resulting in the severe wounding of 5 Thai soldiers who were conducting a routine patrol. This single incident, while tragic, served as the explosive spark that ignited the vast and dry tinder of a long simmering, deeply complex and emotionally charged border dispute. In the tense and chaotic hours and days that followed the explosion, the government in both Bangkok and Phnom Penh exchanged a volley of increasingly heated and angry accusation. Each government publicly and vehemently blamed the other for initiating the aggression and for committing a gross violation of its national territorial sovereignty. The fighting subsequently intensified with a terrifying and seemingly unstoppable speed, rapidly morphing from small, isolated skirmishes between patrols into a state of sustained and high-intensity combat. This new phase of the conflict involved the widespread use of heavy artillery, the deployment of devastating multiple launch rocket systems, and in a significant and alarming escalation of military force, the execution of a number of limited but precise airstrikes. These airstrikes were conducted by the Royal Thai Air Force against what it identified as key Cambodian military positions and command posts. The fighting was geographically concentrated around several historically and culturally significant ancient temple complexes. These temples, revered by people in both nations, are situated in and around stretch of contested territory along the more than 800-kilometer shared border, specifically to the Franco-Siamese treaties. These agreements were intended by the colonial powers of the time to definitely demarcate the boundary between French Indochina and the Kingdom of Siam, now Thailand. However, the treaties left several crucial areas, particularly within the dense, mountainous, and nearly impenetrable jungles of the Dangrek mountain range, poorly defined and open to conflicting interpretations. The most prominent symbolic and emotionally charged point of contention has for many decades been the magnificent and sprawling Previhir Temple complex, a designated UNESCO World Heritage Site. In the year 1962, the International Court of Justice, the principal judicial organ of the United States nations, delivered a landmark ruling. It awarded sovereignty and control of the temple itself to Cambodia, while the most practical access to the site remained from the Thai side. This verdict, while legally binding, has remained a source of deep-seated nationalist resentment and a recurring political grievance within influential circles of Thai society and government. The human toll of these 5 brutal days of fighting has been devastatingly high and deeply tragic. Official reports issued by the government of both countries, which at times have presented conflicting details and casualty figures, indicate that at least 36 people have been killed. This grim statistic tragically includes a significant numbers of non-combatant civilians, including women and children, who were caught in the indiscriminate and terrifying crossfire. The number of individuals wounded in the conflict is believed to be in the many hundred, placing a severe strain on local medical facilities, many of which were not equipped to handle a massive influx of trauma patients. Beyond the immediate and heartbreaking tally of casualties, the conflict has unleashed a staggering and acute humanitarian crisis. More than 300,000 people have been forcibly displaced from their homes and ancestral village on both sides of the border. These displaced populations, in scenes of panic and desperation, grabbed what few precious possessions they could carry before fleeing the violence. They have sought safety and refugees in overcrowded and often unsanitary makeshift evacuation centers, which have been hastily set up in local temples, public schools, and community buildings far from the immediate danger of the front line. The conflict has also wrought extensive and widespread destruction upon essential civilian infrastructure. Countless homes, small businesses, educational facilities, and local hospitals now bear the deep and visible scars of artillery shelling and sustained gunfire. The reported use of heavy and, in some cases, undiscriminated weaponry in and around populated civilian area drew sharp and immediate condemnation from major international human rights organizations. These groups have called for urgent and impartial investigations into potential violations of the international recognized law of armed conflict. The massive displacement of such a large population in such a short period of time has created an urgent and formidable humanitarian challenge. International and local aid agencies are now scrambling to provide the absolute necessity of life, including emergency food supplies, access to clean drinking water, essential medical care, and adequate temporary shelter to the vast and growing numbers of affected and traumatized people. The international response to the rapidly deteriorating situation along the Thai-Cambodian border was robust, swift, and multifaceted. Urgent and public calls for an immediate and complete cessation of all hostilities emanate from the highest level of the international community, including the United Nations Security Council in New York, major world powers, most notably the United States and the People's Republic of China, also weigh in, urging restraint and a return to dialogue. The administration of United States President Donald Trump adopted a particularly active, vocal, and assertive role in applying direct and significant pressure on the leadership in both Bangkok and Phnom Penh. The goal was to compel them to cease fire and return to the negotiating table without precondition. According to sources within the White House, President Trump engaged in direct one-on-one telephone conversation with both acting Thai Prime Minister Phum Tham Vy and Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet. During these crucial calls, he reportedly conveyed a direct and unambiguous message, employing his characteristic business-like negotiating style. He warned both leaders that a failure to immediately de-escalate the conflict and embrace a peaceful path forward could have severe and negative repercussions for their two nations' highly favorable and economically vital trade relationship with the United States. This was a potent and credible level of influence given the importance of the American market to both the Thai and Cambodian economies. Following the successful announcement of the ceasefire agreement from Malaysia, President Trump was quick to publicly claim a significant and decisive share of the credit for the diplomatic success. In a widely circulated post on his preferred social media platform, he offered his personal congratulations to both countries on their wise decision to end the violence. He added that his own timely and decisive intervention had been the key factor in breaking the diplomatic deadlock and had been instrumental in saving what he claimed could have been thousands upon thousands of lives. The United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio quickly followed up with a more formal statement, echoing the president's sentiment. Secretary Rubio's statement officially welcomed the agreement and confirmed that a specialized team of senior State Department officials and regional experts was already present on the ground in Putrajaya. Their mission, he explained, was to provide technical support, diplomatic assistance, and encouragement to the ongoing peace effort. In a subsequent press briefing held at the White House, the official press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, expanded on this narrative. He suggested to the assembled members of the press corps that President Trump's personal and direct role in brokering the ceasefire was so profound and impactful that he should be seriously considered as a candidate for the prestigious Nobel Peace Prize for his effort in preventing a wider war in Southeast Asia. The ceasefire agreement itself is far more than a simple promise to stop the fighting. It is a carefully structured and detailed document that outlines a series of concrete, verifiable, and confidence-building measures. These steps are specifically designed to solidify the newly established peace and to prevent any accidental or intentional relapse into violence. The very first steps mandated by the agreement involve an immediate and direct meeting between the respective regional military commanders of the Thai and Cambodian armies. These are the very commanders who are responsible for the specific sectors of the border where the most intense fighting occurred. This meeting is intended to ensure that the orders to ceasefire are communicated clearly and effectively down the entire chain of command to the individual soldiers on the ground. This initial meeting is to be quickly followed by a high-level gathering of the defense attached from both nations' embassy. The second meeting will be formally chaired and facilitated by senior Malaysian military officials in their capital, Kuala Lumpur, to ensure neutrality. Furthermore, the agreement explicitly called for full and formal sessions of the General Border Committee. This is a long-established bilateral mechanism that was specifically created to manage border issues but has been dormant during the recent period of high tension. The plan is for this committee to convene in Cambodia in early August. The successful, timely, and good faith implementation of this sequence of scheduled meetings will be absolutely critical. It is these actions that will determine whether the current fragile ceasefire can be transformed into a more durable and lasting peace, and whether the two nations can begin the arduous and politically sensitive process of addressing the fundamental territorial dispute that have plagued their relationship for many generations. Despite the current atmosphere of palpable relief and cautious optimism that prevails in the region, the path toward achieving a comprehensive and permanent peace settlement is universally acknowledged by all parties to be extraordinarily difficult, complex, and fraught with numerous potential setbacks. The deep-seated and emotionally charged historical grievance, which have been fueled by many decades of nationalist rhetoric and profound mutual suspicion, cannot be simply wished away or erased overnight by a single agreement. The intractable territorial dispute over the Privihir temple complex, as well as several other smaller contested parcels of lands along the border, has repeatedly served as a dangerous and explosive flashpoint. This issue has often been cynically manipulated and deliberately exacerbated by domestic political pressures and calculations within both Thailand and Cambodia. In the past, nationalist movements and various political factions in both national capitals have effectively used the border issue as a powerful and reliable tool to rally public support, to distract their populations from pressing internal problems like economic hardship or political corruption, and to strategically undermine their political opponents. The proactive and ultimately successful role of ASEAN in mediating this dangerous crisis is a highly significant and encouraging development for the regional organization. ASEAN, which has traditionally operated on cherished principle of consensus and strict non-interference in the internal affairs of its member states, has frequently faced criticism for what has been perceived as its ineffectiveness in resolving serious dispute between its own members. The assertive, hands-on, and effective mediation led by Malaysia in its capacity as the ASEAN chair, however, serves as a powerful and compelling demonstration of the bloc's latent potential to manage and contain regional conflicts when its leadership is determined, united, and willing to take decisive action. This successful intervention provides a valuable and timely precedent for how the so-called ASEAN way can be flexibly adapted and applied to diffuse dangerous tensions and to actively promote peaceful dialogue and resolution. The economic consequences of the 5 days conflict have also been severe and are already rippling through the local, regional, and national economies of both countries. The immediate and total closure of major border crossings, such as the vital Boi Pai Iran-Pratet checkpoint, brought a sudden and complete halt to the vibrant and lucrative cross-border trade, which is valued at billions of dollars annually. This abrupt disruption has had a direct and painful impact on countless businesses, from large-scale agricultural exporters and manufacturing firms down to the thousands of small family-run market stalls that depends entirely on the daily, unimpeded flow of goods, services, and people across the border. For the many thousands of Cambodian and Thai citizens who cross the border each day to work in factories, farms, and markets on the other side, the conflict has meant a sudden and catastrophic loss of their livelihood and daily income. The necessary rerouting of the commercial goods by sea and air has also significantly increased transportation costs for businesses. With these costs likely to be passed on to consumers, the ceasefire and the widely anticipated reopening of the border crossing offers a desperately needed prospect of economic recovery and return to normalcy. However, for the hundreds of thousands of displaced people, the immediate future remains shrouded in deep uncertainty. Their first and most fervent hope is simply to be able to return safely to what is left of their home and villages and to begin the monumental and emotionally draining task of rebuilding their shattered lives and communities. The most urgent and immediate priority for both the Thai and Cambodian governments, with the full and robust support of the international community, will be the sustained provision of comprehensive humanitarian assistance. This includes not only food, clean water, and shelter, but also long-term psychological support and trauma counseling for those who have endured the terrifying ordeal of the conflict. Looking ahead into the coming weeks and months, The resilience of this ceasefire and the genuine political will of both Thailand and Cambodia to engage in substantive and meaningful negotiations will be rigorously put to the test. The continued and active engagement of influential international actors, including the United States with its significant economic leverage, and China with its strong and long-standing political and economic ties throughout the region, will likely be a crucial factor in keeping both parties firmly committed to the diplomatic process. The global focus will now inevitably and rightly shift from the chaotic battlefield of the border to the quiet and deliberate atmosphere of the negotiating table. It is here that the painstaking and often tedious work of implementing the ceasefire's detailed term and eventually tackling the profoundly thorny and politically explosive issue of a final and a permanent border demarcation must begin. The people of Thailand and Cambodia, who are intrinsically bound together by many centuries of shared culture, religion, and history, and who have once again borne the terrible and disproportionate cost of this conflict, are united in their fervent and desperate hope. They hope that the agreement forged in the diplomatic halls of Putrajaya will prove to be not just another temporary truce in a long history of violence, but a genuine, transformative, and lasting turning point toward a shared future of enduring peace, mutual stability, and prosperous cooperation. The entire international community will be watching and waiting with bated breath to see if this fragile and hard-won peace can indeed hold, and if diplomacy, dialogue, and reason can finally and definitely triumph over a painful century of division, suspicion, and recurring conflict. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show go on. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to Sok Heinrich, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched the show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.